What kind of guy is that? That you're just going to leave your fight family or are you going to go and pretend to try to be friends with some new guys because what the fuck is this?
Touchdown!
Welcome to It Was All a Dream with me, Nathersonn. Today I'm joined with Tait. Tait, if you want to introduce yourself, let the people know who it is and what it is you do.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? My name's Tait Fletcher. Right now in culture, what I'm known most for is my portrayal of Paz Vizsla in the Mandalorian season 3, which is just finishing up, I think, on Wednesday coming up, and should be a great finale. I'm a mixed martial artist, or I was a podcaster, actor, gym owner, a coffee company owner. Me and a couple of friends own Caveman Coffee that we've had running with cold brew nitros and beans for the last 10 years. And yeah, just always moving, man.
That's amazing. It's nice to hear you have so much more vision as well, like in so many sectors. That's real cool to hear.
Yeah, I've always been kind of like, if you're in one lane, it's dangerous because if something happens to obstruct that lane or something happened, then the commerce shuts down there. And so now you're caught and there's no way to get ahead. And so anytime I had extra time, I would just, what else do you love? And love coffee. And so we make this coffee, and it became like that kind of, and then, like minds come together and all that kind of stuff. But that kind of has dictated my road, and the people around it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm kind of like the same, I think for me, it's just if you're doing something so passionately and you're like, oh yeah, I'm in the middle of like doing this podcast and then I'm doing my own business of like photography and videography and like I'm trying to now make a documentary as well. So like I've just got so much that I think it's because I'm creative. I just want to do more. And I'm like,
well, I'll tell you this. The more you manifest and the more you execute, everybody's got great ideas, but everybody's execution is dog shit.
Yeah.
Right. And so either we get precious about the project, it's not whatever the thing is, but that thing of being able to execute is such a superpower. The follow through,
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're pushing towards it and just chasing it, like even if it's just working on it a little bit day by day, you're gonna get closer to it,
What I find is that people, myself included, feel like we can lose momentum or things aren't happening fast enough or whatever. But like all the things that you just said, videography, making a documentary, photography, podcasting, it's all in the entertainment and art expression genres. Yeah. And those are similar, right? Those are all married to each other. Yeah. And so inside of that, you follow that path long enough, you become an expert in those things. And then you meet other experts along, and that's how it builds, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, that's why it has to be something you love. Because if it's something you're waiting for a payoff for, it won't quick it like, especially now in like instant gratification society that we're in, it's not going to gratify you quickly enough and you'll become bored and move on. You won't have the discipline to follow it through. But if you do that and you love the thing, man, it's limitless.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously you've done a fair bit with obviously the coffee and acting, because I know that your acting career, you've done a lot of films. And that, so was acting or the entertainment industry always your dream? Was it always your dream to work in that sort of field?
No. A lot of the dreams that I saw as a kid, they weren't available around me, and so that wasn't really a reality that I lived in, that you could be a professional athlete or that it just wasn't there. And so it's hard to seek out what it is that you're to be or what you'd like to be in this life, as a young person. And you follow a thread, and hopefully that thread brings honor, character, discipline, and integrity to your character, because where it is that I put my footsteps is what builds all those things, right?
Hmm.
What I endeavor to do. And so inside of that, a life is built. So, the the choice is vitally important and almost not important. It's vitally important in like where it draws you to, if it draws you towards a higher place or not, or if you're just
Yeah.
looking for base reactions from life. But I think that, if you it just depends, because also the choice doesn't matter because you can get caught with indecision. So you have to follow something. My coach Greg Jackson used to say you have to have a plan,
Yeah.
but you got to be 100% willing that that plan is going to change and fall apart. But if you're going to lead people, you have to have a plan, or else the people fall apart without confidence. They don't believe in the construction of what you're about to endeavor. And so it's important to be thoughtful in those ways, but it's also important to be loose and go, okay, now that this new tangent came up, I can adjust the plan. Now that this new tangent, yeah, I love fighting, I go into that. And then you get into a place where you age out of that. And what is it? Well, this tangent came up about film. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
take this job doing this. Fuck, this is dope. I remember when I was a little kid, I would have loved to have done this, but I didn't see any possibility anywhere. And then, the first time I got a SAG card, I was working security, and I got asked by Master P and his guys at No Limit Records out of Louisiana to come and be in this prison film. And
Yeah.
so that's where I got a SAG card, and that started in 2000. It's called Lockdown. And the guy on the film, there was the second unit director and stunt coordinator. He goes, dude, come live out at my house. You could work out. And I go, dude, I'm going to go live and be in the movies and live in California. That seems outrageous to me. Like, I'm a kid from Michigan. I got this one job. I'm doing this competition stuff I love. Thanks a lot. But, I'm not following a pipe dream for something that I like. And so I followed a fight career for 10 years.
Yeah.
And that became a huge part of my life. And then as my last fight happened, a guy from the X Games that was also a stunt coordinator came into my gym and starts rolling jujitsu. And then we start talking. And then he goes, and so he puts me in this movie, Paul. And then I start working like that. And I go, because I was just doing after fighting, I was like doing bodyguard work, and I'd started a CrossFit, strongman, jiu-jitsu gym, Muay Thai, had a couple MMA fighters out of there. And so I was just kind of busy and all that. And as film started to progress, those things had to alter in their balances of who was taking care of them and all that. And they still run today, which I'm really proud of. And it's great. And I don't have anything to do with it. Yeah. So that's kind of been the arc of it, and then, the other thing is like this show Mandalorian, how'd you get on the Mandalorian, or how'd you get, and it's not any one thing, it's like I was at a convention signing a while back, and somebody goes, God, what a great career. How'd you build this career? Because they're looking at all the photos of different movies I've been in or whatever. And I said, it's weird that you say I have a career. I never thought about it like that. I always thought like I was getting my next job, this is the next project we're going to work on or whatever. And then it builds. And so it's like, in reflection of time, I don't know what it is that I've done until I get past the thing, kind of. And that's kind of like what being in this Mandalorian is right now. It's like being right in it. It's hard to see. It's like, man, this is Star Wars. This is like, it's insane to me, And so it's hard to get out of like, I'm just this, and I went and I brushed my teeth, and you're living this
Just going
normal
to
life,
work.
and this is this kind of extraordinary thing also, right?
Yeah. So just on that, what was your dream when you was, it doesn't necessarily have to be young, because I mean, for me personally, like my dream now is to be a videographer and photographer.
Right.
And ideally I'd like to step into filmmaking and stuff like that at some point down the line. But I was probably 17, 18 when I discovered that as a dream. And I think sometimes you do know from the age of like 6, I've always wanted to do that, whether it's a realistic dream or not. Like you said there, you would love to have been an actor, but was it a realistic dream for you to be like, oh yeah, that's achievable? Do you know what I mean?
Well, and also, do you feel safe enough to go and do that? Or there's a lot of things that constrict a body and keep it sedentary or from making a move like that, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like there's a boatload of faith that goes along with that, if that's the move. But like for me, it wasn't really like there's this dream and I want to chase that dream.
Yeah,
My
sure.
my dream, well, at first it was like, a lot of life is survival. And inside survival, there's not a lot of room for dreams because you don't really have hope of a future because you don't know what, and I was kind of caught in some stuff like that. And so what I started chasing when I got conscious was self-development. And
Okay.
how can you make yourself more useful? I mean, how many languages do you speak? Can you take care of yourself in combat? Are you weapons proficient? Can you talk about philosophy? Do you understand the machinations of the mind and what happens psychologically to men when they endeavor certain things? And then when I started fighting and stuff, the things that I really wanted to do as far as that part of my personal development was, how do I put myself on the edge of myself, on that
Yeah.
real edge of my comfort? How do I get really to the point, whether it's in workouts or in whatever it is I'm doing, that I'm working towards that edge of my comfortability. Not only comfortability of what feels like I'm working towards the edge of damage. I want so much out of this session that I'm in that I'm grinding like that, right? And
Yeah.
so that kind of became the thing. And out of that was like, well, do what you love, follow what you love, right? And so it was never like a long lost dream that came. It was like all these things segmented. I felt like I got into a position with myself that I owned myself in a different way, and I saw
Yeah.
myself in a different perspective than what the things that maybe constricted me when I was younger were. And I go, well, let's start working, because I already knew how to work. I had a great discipline and work ethic just from being an athlete. And I was like, well, let's just work at this then, and we'll go and we'll see where this goes. I wish maybe I'd have had more forethought about it, about like, yeah, A plus B, it's going to be C following that, like, and you can see down the path. But I was just trying to get proficient with my skill sets and develop myself further in that way as it went on. And it kind of worked out. I mean, everything's perfect, man. It's like that, but that's what I did. I didn't have like, I don't know
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Of
route.
course.
Yeah. Anyway,
No. Yeah, that was absolutely fine. It was a nice answer. I mean, I'm sure there's people in life that are going to be like that still. You're still going to bump into people like, I'm not even too sure.
sure.
Like they're going to be not necessarily lost, but probably overwhelmed with
True.
options. The world's full of a million options, and that's just in like this country alone. So
Right.
when you think of what the world has to offer, like where do I even start?
Well, most people are in such a state that they can't get out of their own towns
Yeah,
financially, right? And so because I mean, there's 1,000 things that are holding most people. Now, not everybody's like that. Some people, there's an affluence that they already have, or some kids grow up with zero confidence, some with a ton of confidence, and it's like there's so many integers to all of us. And that's the beautiful way, is that I see all these different people and they all succeed. And what is that? The thing is if you get attached to the discipline of action, of good action, right? Because that overwhelm and all the things that constrict and sew you to the, oh my God, I'm frozen by too many choices, right? My
yeah,
analysis has got paralysis written all over it, right? And so it's not that. You can't fix your mind out of the place. You have to show your mind with action. And so you
yeah,
have to take the footsteps towards that thing diligently. And it doesn't matter what you think about it, how you feel about it. Take the footsteps and you'll get further down the road, and those things will become true because you'll have faith in the footsteps you just took. And it's like, that's the only way that I've ever seen anybody build it. Whether they came from nothing, from something, from full confidence, from intelligence, from stupidity, from whatever. Man, the person that works and goes and puts in concerted work towards a goal, they win. That's what it is, And the mind is what we fight that keeps us from doing that. Why can't I execute? Why can't I follow, or whatever the things are, right? And so it becomes like that. Like, you got to be a master yourself to master your own mind and your own emotions so that you can put good action into things. But the funny thing is if you got shitty emotions and a shitty mind, that's cool, because all you got to do is force the right action. And if you keep walking that road, your mind and your emotions will follow. And that's just how it is. And so, I'm glad I didn't miss those things, right?
yeah. Of course, I think that definitely it's almost like being streetwise teaches you so much. Being in situations is where you grow most. So like for me, I've had like multiple no's, but then all that's taught me is the worst they can say is no.
Right.
So for opportunities for me, I'm like, I'm just going to DM this guy, ask him if he wants to do a photo shoot, ask him if he wants to go on a podcast.
Yep.
They can either leave me on red, or they can go no, or they can say yes.
Yep.
That's the worst. And I'm like, well, that's great for me.
Yep. And also, 2 hours later, it might be different. Or that, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? You never know what's going on with the receiver on a thing like social media that just, passes through a scroll, and you saw it and then you're like, oh fuck, I wish I could find that guy, but whatever, and it
yeah,
becomes, there's all of that stuff that happens. But that is the thing, is to stay in the try. What you said is magic. You stay in the try.
yeah. So you're obviously heavily determined to succeed. You've got a great attitude and a great mentality for that, to just better yourself.
Thanks.
And that, who would you say some of your idols was to either help you in growing yourself mentally or even business wise, of like, I don't know, maybe even stepping into acting? Like, was it like the Arnie's? Because I know you're quite a heavily action based
Right.
actor. So was
Right.
it people like in the 80s, it was Arnie's and stuff like that, and Sylvester Stallone, those were the
Right.
big, like, iconic 80s action guys. And
Right.
that,
Totally.
so um, was like those some of your inspirations? Or I've said idols before, and people have said, oh, I'd probably say they're more heroes. So is there anyone, or it could be your parents, that was your idols or heroes?
Yeah, man. It's like, I think the question lands on me as if it speaks to ideals, um, and like North Stars.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, I'd really, there's so many people. I'd be remiss if I started a list, right? But like,
yeah, sure.
I think of my grandfather right away, and you know, um, who was an immigrant and came here, and then at 15 alone off a boat, right? And ends up getting into college, and getting a scholarship, and then working as an ambassador in other countries for a while. And then at the end of his life, gave all his stuff back to his college. Thank you for affording me the life that you gave me, right? With this free scholarship that you gave me 60 years ago.
Yeah,
And think, just, you know, doing a real righteous thing, even if there's no need to do it, right? Like things that are like that. So like a lot of it, like mythology, I grew up with a lot, was, well, a lot of my heroes and ideals, and I would look towards that, or I'd read like Marcus Aurelius, and meditations, and listen to how he's speaking to himself as a man, of things that are important to remember. And oh, this may come up again, and this is right action in that way, and things like that. And I started thinking about pushing off gratification, and doing the hard thing in front of you, right?
yeah,
And until your resistance is at a point where you're in control of your resistance doesn't keep you in the chair. All that kind of stuff. I think there's all those things that I can get I got a SAG award for Breaking Bad. I can take all the tension out of my life. That thing doesn't mean anything. It's a paperweight. It's a thing that doesn't get me down the road anymore. My work and my action today does. So, that becomes the thing that I try to focus on, is what's that output? Because that's at the end of the day what matters. And I can feel good about yesterday. I'm real proud of the Mandalorian, but that's not my tomorrow, right?
yeah,
That's not
definitely.
going to feed. That's not nourishing in some way. It's a cool thing I got to be a part of, But these but that's work also, and
Yeah,
that all that stuff is wallpaper. But the stuff I'm talking about how to direct self, well, that's the job. That's the actual job. And it's easy when I get one of these other successes to go, I don't need to do the actual job. No, no, no. Always pay attention to the job. Nourish the self, become whole, become useful and supportive of your community. And if you don't, you erode. And that's what'll happen. And so it's like, as these energies change too, how do you balance them? Right? As successes or losses or upheavals, like, who am I amidst the storm? Can I maintain a balance and a calm here regardless of what's happening? And that kind of becomes, my North Star.
okay, that's nice to hear. I mean, how you mentioned there, I'm kind of the same with that. That there was a quote. It was Jim Carrey. He was doing a talk at a university, and he mentions a quote that his dad um
Is it Jim Carrey with the full beard, or is it Jim Carrey clean shaven?
Clean shaven.
Which clean? Yeah, it's a different guy, right? It's a different guy.
Yeah. And basically the quote is and it changed my life because it changed the way that I looked at things. And it was that basically his dad worked a normal job that he didn't like. He got fired, and then it affected their family. And it basically the quote is that you can fail at something you don't want, so you may as well fail at something you do want.
Right. It's like at the end of you're dead anyway.
Yeah.
Are you gonna try? You're dead anyway. You're already dead. You're in decay already. Are we gonna try? What would turn you on in this life? We're already dead. What would
Just
make it worth it?
Autopilot
You know,
mode,
and
right?
it's like that's the perspective. It's like that's because that's where we are. There's no embarrassment. There's no this. There's no what will they think of me? Because they're all dead too.
Yeah.
Turn it on while you're here. Let's make some fucking memories, right?
Yeah. Well,
Then
that's it. I mean, I was working in security. I was working 7 days straight doing 12-hour shifts, and I'd get 3 days off. And I was like,
what kind of environment?
it was like industrial, so just like gatehouse, like
Yep.
checking in lorries and stuff.
Yep.
And I was on like £8 an hour, which is probably $10-11.
Yeah, minimum wage in America or something.
And and I was like, do you know what? I'm not vibing this, and I just quit my job. And I was like, I'm just gonna go for my filming and photography full time. I'm just gonna push it.
Yeah,
like
brother.
that's
The other
what
thing
I enjoy
is
doing.
like working jobs like that are not. It's like they're necessary at a time, but those are the jobs that build the dream.
Yeah.
Right. For me, those are the jobs I can eat, I can pay rent still, so I can build this dream. Right. And God hope that your feet got the energy to move because you got to hustle during that
That's
time.
it. Yeah, you're gonna get
but here's the thing too, kid. It ain't forever. Not that you get to stop hustling, but that feeling inside that no, because it starts working, and then you're just moving and you're working in your flow of what your God space is that you created for yourself, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, since I've left there, I've now got a wall of achievements
Cool.
around me.
I saw your Instagram earlier. It's dope.
Yeah, it's growing nicely. I mean, I've got loads to put up, and it's just cool. Like it's normally every time I work with someone, whether it be podcasts, photos, or anything, I'm like, yo, I need you to sign something so I can go up there to say like,
Killer.
so I can look. You know, when them days when you're like leaving the house, and like, I just can't be asked today. You look to the side and you're like, that's why I can be asked. You know, and that's just kind of my motivation to keep me going. To be like, I've achieved a lot. You know.
Did you meet MGK?
Yeah, I toured with him on the on one of the on his latest tour, and that
in person or on Zoom?
No, so I done the tour with him in person. So he was touring through the UK, and that. So I'm back with him in May. He's doing the Royal Albert Hall in the UK. So I'm just I'm shooting that show for him.
Sick, man. I did a movie called Project Power with him.
Yeah,
dude. And I was like, this is the tallest string bean I ever saw in my life, right? And what a cool guy too, man. He was dope.
He's a lovely guy, right?
Yeah.
And that there's definitely met some cool people along the way, you know. So one question I've got, which I know you've obviously mentioned a bit about it, but you've achieved great success with what you've done.
Thanks, man.
In your career. There you go. And how did you achieve the great success? Would you say it was through networking, determination?
Yeah. Relentless determination and growing a network. And, you know, and it was hard, you know, because it's like, fuck, dude, now that you say that, it's like, I'm a loyal guy from my neighborhood. I for forever.
Yeah.
And to leave the dudes that I grew up with wasn't easy. And then I built a fight community and a fellowship, a brotherhood that's there, right?
Yeah.
Sisters, brothers, and then to leave that, because that's not me anymore. And so these eras of man, of like, this isn't the era I'm in anymore. It's almost like peeling skin off to get away from it. You know what I mean? And so it felt a certain way when I left fighting. You know, I couldn't go back to the gym for a couple of years just because I would almost feel like ashamed that I wasn't sparring with guys.
Yeah.
Even though, like, why am I asking for head injury? I'm not doing that. I'm old. I'm like all the things, right? Everything. And I was like, but there's that thing inside you as a,
Yeah.
especially coming from that background, that's very hard to let go. So anyway, that was the thing. I remember driving and I was going out to go surf with a friend, Darren Prescott. And he goes, oh, I want to introduce you to all these guys. And, you can get to know some people and they can know you and maybe use you down the road, whatever. And so it was the
Yeah.
beginning of that kind of thing. And I was like, and I thought, because I'm a critical dickhead that is like judgmental and all that, and to myself worst of all. And I'm like, what kind of guy is that? What kind of guy is that? That you're just going to leave your fight family, are you going to go and pretend to try to be friends with some new guys because what the fuck is this? Like all the thoughts that come that try to saddle you from the thing that is in front of you that you're doing, right? The mind not being on my own side is one of the biggest baffling things of being a human that there is. Like there's not that in monkeys. Monkeys aren't like, yeah, I think I'll fucking jump on the electric fence, or I think I'll, it's like, oh, I think I'll just shoot heroin till I fucking die. Like there's not that in the natural world. There's no cheetah that's like, if I were a little slower or something, like, it's not like, it's crazy. So, those parts of the self that I got to get around and go, no, let yourself be free and be thankful for that life you had and be grateful for those memories and those friendships that you'll always have. And you're going to go out and you're going to breathe into a new life like a little kid again. And it's like starting new again. And that's what the new era of my life in that way was like. And I had things that were holding me, like I was running a gym. I was doing a lot of things at the time that kept me balanced.
Yeah.
But fuck, man, your heart pulls you into that. I love MMA. I love it. And your heart pulls you towards it. And so to come this other way, it was, it was like a breakup, and it was very difficult. And then it took a long time, I was like, and everybody said, hey, don't quit your day job, man. And I go, I don't have a day job. I got, an all day job every day with 4 different things, you know what I mean? And I said, and I don't know how else to do something. You said, how do I do it? Okay, here's the long-winded answer to your question is I don't know how to do it, except I gotta get over the fence. I'm going to throw my hat over the fence and I got to go. There's no other way to get it. And so I just throw my hat over the fence a lot and go, here we are, we're in the stream. Don't know how to do it. We'll figure it out. Let's go. A lot of times it's like you jump off the cliff, you got to build your fucking wings on the way down. And until you're under the pressure and the environment that those wings need to be built in, they won't be appropriate. You have to be in the fire for it. And so that's how I did it. I don't know if that's the right way. I'm sure there's a more finessed way, maybe way more skillful or beautiful or efficient, but that's what I did. And then, I've got a whole new host of friends and that have ambitions that are similar to mine. And so like you'll be with other videographers and you'll all be walking a road and it'll grow exponentially.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, what it's been. So for me, it's just staying healthy, staying present, and staying a useful addition to whatever job I'd get put on,
Yeah, definitely.
And then in the other side of it, what you said, like, it's a beautiful thing to be in Breaking Bad and to be in this and to be in Avengers, like the whole list of everything. I'm so grateful. I got thousands of parts from each thing that are great, that I hold dear, but none of that stuff has any agency. And what I mean by that to listeners or whomever is that you don't have a say in your life unless you're the creator. Okay? It's who wrote it. It's who's directing it. It's really who wrote it. Who created this? And that's who owns it and gets to move it. And then you have agency to the highest degree that you can in this crazy film business, which is the craziest caste system of oppression that you've ever seen. It's insane the way it's set up and what's normalized as far as how different people are, like, the film business is a trip. While it's trying to say, hey, equity everywhere, it's like there's none. I mean, in the machinations of it, it's insane. So, I look towards that. And when you talk about heroes, men I admire and respect, it's all the people that I look to who has agency in that world. What did Sylvester Stallone say no to hold on to Rocky? Right?
Yeah,
they wanted to buy it from him and give him money when he was dog broke. Gave his dog away because he couldn't feed him broke. A dog he loved, right? He was broke. And he said no, because I want to star and direct it, right? And so that's a thing where you got to hold the line for yourself. What's your value? What's the value of this thing you created? And then I look at anybody else that is in the film business that really has agency and pull towards something. There's only a few stars that, I mean, you, Tom Cruise, Leonardo DiCaprio, guys that don't create or write their own things, but that are stars just because.
Yeah.
Maybe you know, you could say Brad Pitt, but there's not a lot of those. Like even guys that you look at, he named Jim Carrey. He's not at the party unless he wrote the party. Dave Chappelle, not at the party unless he wrote the party. Jon Favreau is not at the party unless he wrote Swingers.
Yeah.
Like Mindy Kaling's not at the party unless she writes her own. It's all like that. And so I start looking at that, and it's everywhere. Who is it that does Eastbound and Down and The Righteous Gemstones? Hilarious. But that guy, same thing. And so it's like I look at that, and so right now in my life, I'm looking to that. And my partner in Caveman Coffee has written a bunch of things that are great. We filmed one of them, putting together these little shorts that we're taking to film festivals. And so it's just like, you know, and so here's further down my road. What does it look like? Oh, more collaboration with these other creatives that are also wanting to buy in more into this business so that they can tell their own stories.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's kind of where it's progressing to here now. Yeah.
No, that's a really nice answer.
So this is like the opening of Mando. I don't know if you can see that.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
There's a friend of mine just texted me this. I guess he's just watching. I don't know if it's too bright.
Oh yeah.
You'll see. You'll trip
Yeah,
out.
that's sick.
Yeah.
So then the final two questions really is this doesn't have to be related to the film industry or any of the roles that you've played, but just more for yourself. What has been the proudest moment where you've kind of gone like, shit, is this really happening? Like, and that could be, for example, standing on the set of Mando and being like, am I really in like Star Wars right now? Or
Well, yeah.
this, or when you was like, hold on, I've just been on the Super Bowl as like what? Like, what has been that moment for you where you've kind of gone like, fuck me, like, what?
Well, the first time I really tripped out about it, me and Lacey Mackey went to the SAG Awards for Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And we go to the after party first for it, which is a couple weeks before. And then we go to the award show, and it's all the red car, it's all of that. And I'm like, I was blown away. It was crazy. And so I'm sitting at a table with Breaking Bad, and then there's Game of Thrones behind us. It's like there's Brad Pitt's across 2 tables down. It was crazy. It was crazy. And going on in this, all of it, going on the stage, you know, so it was really a cool thing. And that, you know, that was a really a beautiful time where I was like taken out of my normal life and going, this is what I've seen on TV, right?
Yeah.
This is what, and I was like, and I felt, you know, I felt out of place. I was like, are these my people? I felt like I snuck in the back door, right?
Yeah.
And so but that was dope. And another thing that really, really stands out, I mean, Jurassic World was phenomenal. Vincent D'Onofrio was in a helicopter with us at one point, telling us about the beginning of his career. The first movie he ever does is, you know, one of the most epic movies ever made. And that was, you know, that was his debut to film.
Yeah.
Just insane. But doing a fight with Denzel Washington and working that out.
Is this an Equalizer or Two Guns?
Exactly. Well, Two Guns also. So Two Guns I worked on maybe a couple years before Equalizer or something. There was some space there. Right? So I'm in Louisiana working on Two Guns. And me and Denzel were like maybe in a room alone twice or something like that, just waiting for cameras to go and da-da-da. And at one point, I don't know, I had a real savage beard at the time. And he goes, is that real? And I go, yeah. He goes, I go, yeah. He goes, right on. And that was it, right? And then I get on Equalizer, and everybody's scared because it's Denzel.
Yeah.
He carries a certain weight with him. And also he comes up, you know, he's a guy that's been in the film business for all these years. Everybody's tried to be in his pocket. I'm sure every manipulation known, like all he's guarded a little bit, right? And so it's like
Yeah, of course.
people are like, it's not overly friendly, and it's like, well, he can't go to Whole Foods because of people like us, right? It's like that's the thing, and so I don't know what that's like. So anyway, to get to work with him and you're intimate when you're in a fight with somebody, and there's a lot of coaching, because I knew more about the choreo than he did at that point.
Yeah.
And he came in early, and me and the stunt team had been practicing it for a couple of days and trying to get him in, and he hadn't had the time. And so he comes before his stunt double, who's Clay Fontenot, who's one of the most talented people I've ever met in my life. Just profound. He used to double Wesley Snipes back in the day when Wesley was doing, all the blades and all that.
Blade, yeah.
Tremendous athlete. So he's doubling Denzel on this. And he wasn't, and he's like a saving grace because he's going to make whatever he does excellent.
Yeah.
And Denzel comes in, and there's all this fear around him, and they told me before, hey, don't talk to it, Denzel. Like, if you have a question, ask us. We'll ask. He doesn't.
Yeah.
I said, I'm cool in the gang, man. Whatever. And then I'm there, and nobody else is there, and Denzel's going, hey, so what? Can we run through this or what? And I was like, sure, man. And I'm a coach. I come from that background, and I just start going through it, and we do all the choreo, and we get it moving, and it was a blast, dude. And then he's telling me about, when he's starstruck, because he's like, I bought a house next to Bob Hope. And so I'm in my driveway, and Bob Hope is driving by, and and all that. And it's like there's the same personal, nice. The one thing I love about him the most, the guys he has that do his hair, his security, and his wardrobe guy.
Yeah,
they've been with him for 30 years, right? And just a loyal, beautiful dude with all the same stuff. That just he's been in crazy situations and has grown in a hypertrophic way that I think most people, it's very difficult to understand, to be in those shoes. And so doing that scene with him, I had 2.5 minutes of a fight scene with Denzel Washington, and it was gripping. It was dope. And then he remembered me from Two Guns, which was cool. And it's just like that, like when he says at the end he signs off everything and he says, hey, see you at work,
Yeah. Yep.
And that's just what it is, right? These people that we rub against, we become familial with. But maybe I won't see you for 6 years, and then we'll be as if time hadn't dropped off.
Yeah.
And so it's like that kind of right now. Yeah. But as far as those memorable moments, those are pinnacle for me. And then this, there were so many in the filming of this that were just astronomically beautiful and growth spurts. What an opportunity for me. I'd asked guys, like I said, I'm always trying to get better at whatever it is I'm doing or whatever. And so I'm asking guys that are experts. I asked D'Onofrio, hey man, what do you do to be a better actor? Like, what classes would you take, or what lines of study would you, and he goes, and then at a whole nother time, I'm with Chris Pratt, and I ask him, and I go, hey, blah, 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 blah. And they both said the same thing, like they'd practiced it. And they go, it's a shit answer for you, Tait. Because the only way you can get better at performing in film is to have a director that lets you play as a performer while you're on film, while there's consequence. And that's the place. And he says, and I know you can't contrive that. And that's the other thing I say about agency. If you write your own thing, you can do that. You can make with your friends, you can do that. You can get your reps in. But they're like, this is the way that we get better. Chris is like, I'm on a TV show every day for years. You get really proficient quickly. It's just what it is. Yeah. And that's where I got my and so I'm thinking about that. I'm like, okay, and so I struggle along, and I keep doing my auditions all the time, and I'm looking at scripts and all the things, and then I get this job, right, where I'm able to play in front of a director for 8 months on film, and I love that thing about, like, why does that matter? And I started thinking about it as an athlete, and I start thinking about, when do records get broken? They always get broken at the Olympics. They never get broken in a training room. You never hear anything like that. Hey, look at, he just, never. It doesn't happen. It's only when there's the consequence of loss or winning or whatever behind it where it matters. But there's something physiologically that cements that learning in you. in a different way than if there's not consequence. And I think
Yeah.
that's what.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, you got some really cool stories. I knew you would have, to be fair, from whether that be from Jumanji or, I mean, like
Yeah.
I believe he was in Fast and Furious as well.
Yep. Yep.
And yeah, so I know your list goes on, and they've got some incredible stuff there. And I know you've been given nothing but advice and tips throughout this entire thing. The last question really is to anyone watching that wanted to kind of follow in your footsteps and kind of get the success that you've had. That doesn't necessarily mean to the grand scale of the films you've had, but just go into acting. What advice would you give them? And it doesn't necessarily have to be acting overall. It could be just to better themselves.
Well, I would
What
say,
advice would you offer?
I'd say don't look at other people too much. Because if I'm going to look at that and I'm going to say, I'm going to follow this guy's path and I want to have the accolades that happen there or something like that, I think about it like this. And I think, okay, say if that guy's Pauly Shore, right? And he's like, De Niro, what did you do? What? And he follows that path and he gets into film. He's not Pauly Shore, the comedian anymore, right?
Yeah.
He's a different thing than his expression of him.
Yeah.
And there's room. Nobody needs another De Niro, but they need another you.
Yeah.
Authentically you. One time I went into an audition. I came out, same guy that helped me out a long time ago, Darren Prescott. I said, he says, how'd it go? And I go, you never know how it goes. You know, they never tell you. It's just like you either get a call or else somebody else is playing that part down the road,
Yeah.
you know? And he says, Tait, and he says, oh, so I said, I don't know what they want. You know, I don't know what they're looking for or whatever, like meaning how to be before it, which is the wrong thing. Yeah. And he said the most beautiful thing to me. He says, Tait, they don't know what they're looking for. And all you have to give them is you. And so you ought to know you authentically who that is. And then just expose that.
Yeah.
And that's what this is for you. And he was right. I mean, what else do I have to bring? And so if you wanted to follow a path for a career in film, well, fuck, I could tell you how to get into the UFC easier. In a way, I could tell you I could tell you what to do, where to put your feet, and if you had any skill set, you could get into a position to be a professional athlete, right? I don't know how to do that with film. You know, I came in the back door of the stunt world, really, as far as like that's how I got into film work. You know, after 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
And so, but they were all roles because I look like me. I'm this big, like, and so they're character roles. They're like, fuck, that's the dude that we want our hero to kill at the end because that's a savage, right? They're like, and so this is what I've been sold for in a lot of ways, right? And so, and I couldn't have, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio couldn't have done that, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. I mean, it's apples and cinder blocks to compare it, but it's like, my point is like, if it's an interest, it's like you, bro. It's the same as anything. If it's an interest of yours, follow that thread.
Yeah.
Learn all you can about it. Learn the history of it. Study it like you love it, if you love it. And when you do that thing, you'll become an expression of that thing in the world that you're in. And so, I mean, because the thing is I can't be sore at acting if I don't get a job to act in, right? Like,
yeah.
Because it's not that way. It's not built like that. It's like maybe somebody calls you, maybe they like your, you know, but you don't have, there's no guarantees in that. So it's a hard place for the psyche to be, I think, for most people. For me as a fighter, I got to go and shake the tree for sponsorships. I got to look towards how am I going to book my next fight? Because I was fighting at a time where before there were like long-term contracts, but it was like you're trying to get a fight somewhere. It was a different thing. And so I'd always kind of been accustomed to that. So like I'm gonna have to make my money so that I can support my dream. Because maybe I can make a lot of money on film in one day.
Yeah.
I can only work twice a year. It doesn't matter very much. And so if you want to endeavor a thing, like I'd like to be in, then love it, regardless of if it pays off quickly or not. If you stay in it, it'll pay off. But it's just, can you bear the weight of neglect, rejection, lack of acknowledgement, and still keep your faith while that happens? Or can you support yourself? It's like that. It becomes like that. And the thing I'd say too is like, it's beyond most people's scope. Everybody hits me up. How do I get back? Well,
Yeah.
where do you live? I live in Kentucky. Well, maybe you'd want to live somewhere where they actually do the thing that you want to do. If
Yeah.
I really love surfing and I live in Kansas, how much do I love surfing? Right? It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't happen there. And so you got to move to the place where it is, and you've got to learn who's who in the place where it is, and you've got to, can I be useful in this place and all that kind of stuff. For stuntmen, it's like go and show your skill sets off. There's open gyms at Jam, at 8711, at different places where you can go and expose yourself to top producers, directors, stuntmen in the world that might put you on another show if you guys clicked or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
it becomes like that too, but it's like you got to throw your all into it and know that there might not be a payoff, right?
Yeah.
I got to throw my all into training and know that I might not get a fight at the end of 6 weeks. Does it change how I move because of what might happen? No, I got to move that way.
Yeah. That was perfect. And that pretty much wraps up my last question, to be fair. This has been a great episode. It's been one of my favorite episodes, to be fair. You got one of the most amazing
Thanks,
stories
man.
I've had. So it's been real fun to talk to you. I
Yeah, I
really
love chatting with
appreciate
you
it.
too. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of It Was All a Dream. We appreciate your time and support. We hope that you enjoyed the episode and you feel inspired to achieve your dreams. Be sure to give us a follow on social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can contact us and stay connected with us if you have any feedback on the episodes or guest recommendations. Be sure to stick around after this to see what's upcoming in the next episode. Thank you.
So my name is Maya Castaneda. I am from Texas in the United States. Kind of grew up all around Texas, traveled there for a while. Now I am currently in Mexico playing professional basketball, and I'm excited to tell you guys a little bit about, how I got here.